Well, the House Oversight Committee moved yesterday to hold a former president and his wife in contempt of Congress.
That's Bill and Hillary Clinton. They were subpoenaed to testify before the committee no later than last week, both regarding their relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. However, neither showed up. Instead, they posted a scathing letter to social media addressed to the committee chair, James Comer, insisting that their written testimony they submitted should be adequate and that not accepting it was a partisan attempt to imprison them. Despite those accusations, both votes to hold the former First Family in contempt were bipartisan, with nearly 10 Democrats voting in favor of the Bill Clinton resolution.
Wow. As for Oversight's investigation, committee chair Comer says they aren't done calling witnesses. The panel is set to depose Epstein's co-conspirator, former girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell, on February 9th. That deposition will reportedly be conducted virtually, as she is, of course, still serving her 20-year sentence in the state of Texas.
This all comes as Representatives Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna are apparently doing everything they can to enforce the Epstein Files Transparency Act. You may remember that late last year, they set a December 19th deadline for the DOJ to release all documents related to Epstein. But more than a month after the deadline, the department says they still have millions of documents to review. Massie and Khanna asked a judge earlier this month to appoint an independent monitor to ensure that the DOJ is complying with the law. In a letter to the judge, the two called the DOJ's conduct a, quote, flagrant violation of the mandatory disclosure obligations under the law, and added the DOJ cannot be trusted with making mandatory disclosures under the act.
But yesterday, a federal judge denied that request. The judge ruled he did not have the authority to supervise DOJ compliance.
Well, first you should look at the Democrats here, the 10 of them that voted to have, to look at Bill and Hillary and say this is not for them.
They want to grill Trump on this so badly, they're willing to throw Bill and Hillary under the bus.
But why is it throw under the bus? Two things can be true at the same time. The investigation can be driven by what looks like a Republican committee trying to play partisan games,
revenge,
right? And no powerful person, Democrat, Republican, or rich person in America should be able to be exempt from testifying in a case that's about one of the most catastrophic failures of leadership to catch somebody earlier or allow all this to go on that was a criminal and hurting the most innocent, the best parts of our society, which are younger people. You know, people that have you always talk about how we're taking care of the older people. Like, younger people were abused by this man and their childhood's ruined. And a lot of them have no accountability for it and just want to know.
Childhoods.
Yeah. You don't think that's the case if you're underage and somebody's ruining somebody's, like, I still think you're an adolescent before you go to college and you have an entire life ahead of you. And I think that we should have some more empathy for the victims in this situation and understand that when you start seeing bipartisan people call out members of their own party saying, step forward, well, maybe Republicans can take a message from this playbook and say, okay, Trump, you testify as well. Everybody testify. It doesn't mean you're guilty. Testifying doesn't mean guilty. Testifying means helping get to the bottom and getting answers around money, around connections, around what led us here to Epstein and how to avoid anything like this happening again. It should be a fair ask from both President Clinton and President Trump.
I suppose. I have not been super impressed with James Comer. I'm having flashbacks to his efforts to get to the truth of the Hunter Biden influence peddling scheme, where, again, very bold claims were made about it. I felt like every day I was being gaslit. New evidence is coming. We'll demonstrate for sure the conclusive proof that the Biden crime family, it goes all the way to the top. What they uncovered was certainly unethical behavior by Hunter Biden himself, poor judgment. I think, the sweetheart deal he almost got that would have exempted him from any further scrutiny of this was terrible. He absolutely tried to leverage his connection to his father for foreign powers and foreign business interests. That was shown, but Comer was always taking it a step further and trying to imply that he had the evidence that was going to bring down Biden himself. And eventually I just got to the point where, like, okay, well, let's see it then. And nothing. And this kind of feels like that to me.
So you don't think that there's any merit to trying to figure out who paid Epstein, who funded his lifestyle? How did this man become as wealthy as he did? And getting some answers to that?
We already know that.
No, we don't know all the
No,
information. There's more than a
people
million
like
pages that
there
are
are heads over them, but it's
Yeah, but you don't
it was
accept
a-
conspiracy theories. You just said you don't accept them earlier when Scott Jennings was on CNN and we were getting peddled
I know, but
conspiracy
we
theories,
have this
so you can't-
information. He was a hedge fund manager.
Yeah,
or,
how do you go from A to B though? How did he get to the finances that he had in the hedge fund?
You manage a hedge fund really well, you make a lot of money.
You wouldn't just go from this job to hedge fund manager. So we're trying to understand every single dot and connect it to his wealth. Okay, and that might be connected to
aliens
some
probably gave him
powerful.
the wealth.
Maybe the aliens did, but there are real people connected to
Zodiac
this.
killer, and it was, the underwater. They went back in time and they built the pyramids, and that's how they.
Well,
like,
you're
they
an
killed
anomaly
Kennedy on their
here.
way,
You're an
and
anomaly
this
here
is
that
what this is
doesn't want to
starting
know
sound like
about
to me.
this. No, I think people actually want to know. You brought it up the other day. You understand
don't
there's
wanna
people that
know.
want to know,
They
was he
don't wanna
connected
know.
to foreign governments? Who was paying
Maybe.
him? Why he was able to avoid serious prosecution for so long?
Was he connected to a foreign government?
Who intervened in the
Only
2007 Florida case?
Interesting question.
No, it's not. Why was he given unprecedented non-prosecution agreement? Like, what
Because
do
the
you mean?
evidence against him was not strong enough.
Yeah, you said
to
that this
merit.
is thoroughly explained to you. No one else feels as comfortable as you do.
Because no one cares about the facts. They just care about indicting the Clintons or indicting Trump. They have partisan blinders on.
But if both of them come forward and testify, then we can be done with this conversation, right?
We'll never be done with this.
Why not? We can go to the next Democrat or next Republican.
Just like we'll
We
never
can
be done with the
this
Kennedy assassination, and we'll never be done
We're
with
not talking about it today on air. We're done with it for the most part for right
I've had
now.
to, even on this show, we've periodically had new evidence emerges on. People still talk about it because they're not satisfied with the answer.
Okay, well, we can start with releasing, like Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are trying to do, releasing the files that by law are required to be released. That I understand is more than 1 million files. Probably they don't need to be as redacted heavily as the first batch that was released. And maybe we won't play partisan games. We try to show more pictures of Clinton and Trump, okay, because we got that part. They knew each other. That doesn't mean they're guilty. And maybe we can release the rest of the files, which is overwhelmingly more than it's already been released. And that'll get us in the right direction.
I wish everyone was this worked up about and this strenuously focused on where COVID came from and how to make sure that doesn't happen again. Right.
People were tweeting me
share,
that I need to be on your side about prosecuting Dr. Fauci. People are that worked up about this.
Good. And I wish our Congress would reflect that because, with all due respect to any victims of Jeffrey Epstein, millions of people globally died from COVID. And it could happen again. There's no reason it couldn't happen again if we allow the same things to be done. This seems ever so slightly more important to me to get the bottom of. But so many people are like, well, I guess we'll never know. Oh, well.
No, because you made it clear that for you, that your priority is putting Dr. Fauci in jail in that regard as opposed to getting to the bottom of it. And I think the priority with Epstein is that since he's dead and Ghislaine Maxwell's already in jail, is getting to the bottom of it. So do you actually care about getting to the bottom of it or just seeing Dr. Fauci behind bars?
I care about preventing another pandemic. That's all. That's what I care about. No, I don't have a revenge. I'm not out for revenge. I want to make sure the ideology that he represents, which plausibly paid for and financed and did the science behind creating this thing, is shut down forever so that it doesn't happen again. That's what I care about. Prosecuting him, by that we mean investigating and holding accountable if appropriate, with due process and all of that, but not closing the door to an inquiry of whether our science is what was the proximate cause of it, which is, again, what our FBI and CIA and Energy Department believe. They just won't explain why they believe that. I'd like to know.
Listen, we can do both, but since we're right here and since a law was passed that these files need to be released, let's just start with the fact that the DOJ is skipping over the law right now. And that's where we are. Up next, Senator Ted Cruz's Laguna Beach trip went viral online as Texas is preparing for an extreme winter storm. We'll be right back after this.